we have with us Gregory Beischer, who's the president and CEO of Millrock Resources. We're in a very exciting gold market. The gold price is going higher, and it's very important we've been looking for exciting project generators, specifically in the US and in Alaska. And this is where Millrock's has come up on our list, which can be traded as MRO on the TSX Venture and as MLRKF on the OTCQB. Thank you, Gregory, for being here with us today and for giving us an introduction to this exciting project generator for gold in Alaska.
My pleasure, Jeb. Thanks very much for the invite. Yeah, I'm sitting here on a nice sunny day in my home state of Alaska and Anchorage. And I'm happy to talk about our company and what we're doing here in Alaska. You know,
Greg, before we continue, Alaska, how is everything going in Alaska now with the COVID situation? I know that drilling, some places were shut down, or is drilling continuing for you guys now?
It is. We've just restarted, actually. It did cause us to, in an abundance of caution, to pause the program in March, but we're back at it now. And, you know, Alaska has, for its huge landmass, a very small population, so it's sort of easy to keep your distance. Only 650,000 of us in a landmass that's same as about 20% of the lower United States. But, you know, a lot of the travel we do is by aircraft. So there's some concerns, but it's all manageable so far.
Gregory, there's been a big sort of gold rush into this junior sector starting, and especially in Alaska. We've seen some major companies coming into Alaska. You talk to us about your experience in Alaska, because I've been following your career for several years now, and Millrock's experience, especially with Mr. St. George in Alaska, of great experience and proven track record with Millrock.
Yeah, thank you. It's been close to 13 years since we've started the company and operating here. And between my partner Phil and I, we know the place well and have been very prolific at generating new exploration opportunities and trying to find that big prize that will drive our share price much higher.
So, Gregory, could you talk to us about what's so important about a project generator, you know, especially the partners, so people can understand the quality of Millrock? I would really like to highlight the importance of looking at a project generator in this gold market, and what makes Millrock an example of with the companies that you've worked with as such a quality example.
Sure. And so let me go through a few of my slides, Jeb, to illustrate. But, you know, we really are early stage exploration geologists. We're the ones that come up with the initial idea of where the next gold or copper or silver or zinc deposit might be. You know, you have to start somewhere to find a new mine. And so major mining companies look for new mines, but they often have to rely on us early stage geologists to bring them the ideas. And that's what we do. You know what to look for in a junior explorer. It comes down mostly to the people, but where are they operating? How busy are they? Is there news flow that can make the share price go up? And you'll find that Millrock scores pretty highly on all these fronts. But the earliest stage exploration really is our forte. That's what we do. But as you know, in early stage exploration, millions are spent without many discoveries being made. It's sort of like pharmaceutical research. There's often money spent, but no return. So Millrock finds a way to reduce that inherent risk by having multiple projects, but the money to explore them comes from other mining companies, not out of our treasury. So you've seen here this slide before, I'm sure, the sort of theoretical life cycle of a mining share. And this would be us in here, plugging away, looking for a deposit. If we make that discovery, that's where there's huge returns for shareholders. And that's what our goal is, to find a giant ore body and then sell it to a major mining company like Barrick or Newmont. We're not ever going to be a mining company. We want to make that initial discovery and sell it, hopefully right about the peak after the discovery. But to do that, we take some initial seed money from investors through private placement financing. So we do some of the earliest stage work. We acquire the mineral rights, but before we go any further, we bring in a partner through what's called an option or an earn-in agreement, and then they're funding the expensive drilling work. Of course, we have to give up something. We give up a portion of the project, but that allows us to operate 5 or 6 at a time, and that way we've got a 5 or 6 times better odds of making that discovery that'll make our shares go up. And over the years, well, first let me give an example of some other companies that have made that big discovery and what's happened. Altius Minerals, one of my favorite companies of all time. You know, they're plugging away like us at 20, 25 cents back in 2003 or 4. They made an initial discovery of uranium, and their share prices shot way up in 2006-7 when uranium was very strong. And since then, they've built themselves into a very, very solid royalty company. Almost the same story for Eurasian Minerals, now called EMX Royalties. And you're familiar with the Virginia gold mine story, good Quebec generator of projects that made some great discoveries and sold their company not once, but twice. So they've done extremely well, and we aim to repeat that success. But this graphic just shows you that most of the money for our exploration comes from other mining companies, rather than betting our shareholders' treasury every time we set out to drill test a new prospect. And over the years, we've attracted some great names, Newcrest and Teck and First Quantum. You know, when these companies invest in our projects, it's a real stamp of approval for the technical merits. These companies don't give money away. We have to build a really exciting geological case to convince them to spend those millions. And while a lot of our past work has been financed by major mining companies that produce and make profits, more and more, especially now that the market's changed for the better, we're making deals with junior explorers, because in a hot gold market, those juniors can raise and spend more on exploration than the majors are willing to do. And we're happy to take their shares as partial payment for our project. And I think right now, having a big portfolio of junior mining company stocks is a good thing to have. It's going to pay off for our shareholders. So that's sort of how our business model works. So in a nutshell, it's multiple projects funded by, if you will, it's a basket or a mutual fund of mineral exploration projects, mostly financed by other companies' money. My partner Phil and I started the company 13 years ago now, and we've been plugging away, and I think we're on the verge of the discovery. Phil's already got a discovery to his credit.
Right, he did with Pebble. The Pebble he was involved with Pebble, right?
Yeah, that's right. He was the young man at 28 years old that stopped his foot in the ground and said, "Drill here." He recognized what was going on. And so between the two of us, we're really prolific explorers, lots of creativity and ideas of where to look next for that giant deposit like Pebble.
Well, Greg, I've known you for several years, but you seem very excited about what you're doing right now at Millrock, especially what you're drilling right now. Is there, uh, could you highlight what's going on at this property up in near Fairbanks and near the Pogo, the famous Pogo mine? Well, let's first let for investors who are new to Alaska. Let's talk about where you're exploring your flagship, one of the flagship projects that you have, and why is it such an important strategic? This whole Pogo area has gotten back into investors' interest and on the radar.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, that's the thing is we do have multiple projects across the state of Alaska. And right now we do have one that has come to the forefront. It's sort of like asking, well, which is your favorite child? I like all our projects, but there's one that actually is my favorite right now. But why Alaska? You know, it's an incredible place. There's been a few great mines discovered, but there's so much more to find that hasn't been discovered yet. And it's got a government that encourages resource development, and our native land claims have long been resolved. So it's a great place, and I'm really glad that I live here. But let me tell you about this one project that's come to the forefront. So I live here in Anchorage, Alaska. Here's our network of paved highways, such that it is. We have right now five different projects in the state, but the one I like the most is the one that could produce the next discovery. We're drilling it right now, and it's here called 64 North. Just to the southeast from Fairbanks, a couple hours down the highway. And I'm going to zoom in a bit more on this map. So here's the Yukon, Alaska border. Here's Anchorage, Fairbanks here. And what's called the Tintina Gold Province, a belt of similarly aged rocks that have produced quite a number of gold deposits. There's some mines here in the Yukon, but there's definitely more to be found here in Alaska. There's some good ones though. Kinross owns the Fort Knox mine, being a fantastic producer for that great mining company. Large deposit, 13 million ounces. And then there's a huge Donlin Creek project out here. This is nowhere near infrastructure. I think it's going to be a mine one day, but it's a huge gold deposit. So it's a prolific belt, and one I'm most interested in right now is called the Goodpaster District. It surrounds the Pogo gold mine owned by an Australian company, and our project is called 64 North. And so now I'm going to zoom in here a little bit more. You know, Pogo is a great mine, discovered in 1994 by Teck and Sumitomo, but now Northern Star bought it up a couple of years ago. A very astute, aggressive mining company and exploration company. They've already discovered more ore here, and so now they've got a great mine, going to make them a lot of money, and we want to find one just like it, and I think we might.
Wow, look at that average grade of 13.6 grams per ton gold.
Yes, sir. You know,
Wow.
this district around Pogo, I believe, will become a mining camp. There'll be multiple mines. It'll be like Val d'Or in northern Quebec, or Red Lake, Ontario, or maybe like Kalgoorlie, Western Australia, where over decades numerous mines are found and millions of ounces are discovered. But you know, we're just getting started here. There's only one mine and a few prospects, and it hasn't been explored to hardly any degree at all. But you know, there's an old adage that the best place to look for a mine is right beside another mine. And that's where we are, right beside Pogo. That's it in the distance there. The processing plant is there. The waste rock is placed up here. The veins they're mining are beneath this hill, four of them stacked one on top of each other. This is the road leading in from the main highway. Here's the Goodpaster River flowing by. And also, Northern Star's made a new discovery out here in the valley floor. And we believe that's going to come right across onto our claims where Chris is standing. And we think there's a gold deposit right beneath his feet there. And we're drilling there right now.
How did this property come available? I mean, and how did come Pogo, the guys from Northern Star, or how they allowed, how are you able to get this property?
Yeah, it's amazing. I've been tracking it closely, over the last decade. And it's been a tough decade. It's just been really hard to find capital. This claim map would have been completely covered in claims owned by multiple companies 10 years ago. But over that decade, with no money available, it just dwindled away. They dropped their claims. They couldn't afford to keep them. And we bought up some key claims right here to the west of the mine. There's Pogo there. We bought these claims 5 years ago. And for a generator like us, that's the beauty of a downturn. We could pick those claims up for next to nothing. But a year ago, we could see things were changing. And so we took the chance. We invested about $500,000 to stake this gigantic district scale track. And like I've drawn the analogy that this will one day be Val-d'Or or Red Lake. Well, we own most of it. So we've got a good chance of making multiple discoveries on this gigantic claim block. Look at the scale there,
Oh,
5 kilometers. So that's about 3 miles. I mean, this is probably 40 miles of favorable geology staked up.
Wow.
So let's zoom in here right beside Pogo.
So this has to be one of the top mines in the U.S. right now, the Pogo mine.
Yeah.
I would say one of the top gold mines in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, and I think you can say in North America, really.
In North America, yeah.
In terms of grade and amount of gold produced. Yeah.
Wow.
Huh. We'd love to find one of them.
You have that whole position around them, like a district here. Wow, yeah. I didn't even. That's interesting.
Yeah, and that's over the years, that's sort of being our modus operandi. We know that big companies in particular, where most of our money comes from, like to own the whole district. They like to see the regional potential as well. Yeah. So now I'm zooming in. On that photo that I showed you a minute ago with the Pogo mine in the background, that was taken from this hill right here, looking back at the mine. That's the entrance. All the plant facilities is right there. The waste rock is up here. There's the road coming in across our property to their mine and up the Goodpaster River. There's the river flowing there. These shapes are the veins that they're actually mining underground at Pogo. So contained within those shapes is roughly 10 million ounces of gold. And we know that our neighbors, Northern Star, have also made another discovery of gold here that I pointed out on the photo. We don't know how many million ounces yet, but we do know from the drill results they've published that there's some very high grades. Here's some examples, 8.9 meters of 5 grams. And I love this one, their discovery hole, 4 meters of 67. That's over 2 ounces per ton of gold. You can just imagine what an intersection like that would do to Millrock's share price now. We've got a shot of making it. Over the course of last summer and fall, Northern Star drilled from these places also. We don't know the results of this drilling yet. They haven't published it, but clearly they're on to something big here.
Wow. Wow.
So again, our claims are in blue, theirs are in gray. There's a deposit sitting there underneath the ground. It dips shallowly off to the northwest. So it should come onto our claims somewhere around here. Or if you come along straight, it'll come onto our claims in this area. And that's where we're drilling right now. We're on this hole right here. And this, of course, is the approximate location. I mean, the diameter of the circle I'm showing there is huge, but that's approximately where we're drilling right now. And we were able to complete this hole right here in March before the pandemic shut us down. And, you know, the rocks really looked great. It had all the right signs, quartz veining, these flat-lying structures. You can see the rock is bleached by fluids passing through it. And the fluids had arsenic and bismuth and pyrite and other telltale minerals for us geologists. Looks very, very similar to what one would encounter at or near Pogo. Turned out, though, there wasn't very much gold in this rock, to our surprise. You know, we have to keep drilling. We know we're in the system. We know we've got all the right geologic processes occurring. So now it's a matter of casting around in this area. That was right there. But this is a huge target area here, almost 5 kilometers long with all the right signs. So we're drilling this one now. Next will be this one and then this one. And then we'll come back and finish off the one that had been started but had to go into suspension in March.
And this one you're drilling yourself. You're not having a partner drill this, right?
No, we do have a partner, Jeb. We stick to our model no matter what. And so a company called Resolution Minerals is financing it. They've agreed to a deal where they would have to spend $20 million over the next 4 years, issue us a lot of their shares, pay us a little bit of cash. But what I like most is that this year there's a US $5 million budget. And so that's going to allow us to drill a lot of holes, give this a really, really good test. So it's a strong deal. Good for them because opportunity doesn't come along like this every day. But also it gives us the wherewithal to really give it the right test. And again, it's just a great example of our model where we've invested maybe $500,000 to generate the project. But we just about made that back already, and we've got a great earn-in deal where we're giving up 40% of the project, 60%.
So they're going to spend. They have to spend. They have to spend $20 million to earn 60% over 4 years.
Right, and they could take one portion of the project further. Let's say we do make a discovery right next door at West Pogo. They could take that block of claims there, and they could finance it, sole finance it all the way through until a feasibility study is being completed. And then we'd give them another 10% to 70. And they could even take it further and actually put a mine into production there, and they'd own 80%, and we'd be the 20% owner of a producing gold mine without ever having spent a dollar out of our treasury. So again, it's just a good example of the model.
And you get a management fee from these properties as well. So can you explain that to investors as well?
Yeah, so right now we're doing the exploration work on behalf of and in collaboration with Resolution Minerals. But for doing that work, we collect an 8% management fee in this case. So on a $5 million budget, that's a $400,000 revenue for Millrock. And, you know, that's roughly half of the overhead of our company for a year. So if we've got one or two like this, then, you know, we're operating on a break-even basis, and we don't have to keep going back and raising money just to keep our office space and our computers running and all that. So yeah, it's very helpful to have those management fees, part of our business model. You know, the whole idea is to build a truly sustainable, pure exploration company with the same core staff that's there year to year, good scientists doing solid scientific work, and eventually we make that discovery that is life-changing for our shareholders.
So they're going to spend $1 million like year one and year two. So this is year one, right?
Yes, no, they're going to spend $5 million this year.
5 million this year. Yeah, sorry, 1 million outside West Pogo. Okay.
Right. Yeah. We want to make sure that there's a steady pipeline of prospects in this whole district. So we have to keep advancing exploration.
5 million in 2020. Wow, that's a considerable program.
Yeah, you bet. We got the teams going flat out right now.
It's one drill turning, or is
Just one drill, yeah. We'll be mounting, that echo target off to up in this area is quite intriguing as well. We'd have to use a helicopter to mobilize the drill up there, but that should occur later in the summer. And if any of these 5 holes intersect a deposit, well, then it's we're off to the races, and there'll be multiple drills. But one at a time. Take the geologic information in, digest it. We like to do things very systematically and really learn scientifically what the rock's telling us. We know that the shareholders are always got a short time frame and want instant news, but that's true for most junior explorers. But in our case, since a lot of the funding comes from other companies, we can afford to take the time and do the job right, and that to me makes the difference on a discovery.
Okay, so this West Pogo block is the flagship right now. That's the most immediate that could generate news or potential discovery activity. Is there anything else that you'd like to include about West Pogo before we go on and maybe discuss the rest of the portfolio? Or
no, I think this gives a good introduction to it, and there's lots more technical detail that I could go into, but I think it's best that we leave it at that. But yeah, Millrock does have other projects, and what we're seeing now that the market is picking up, and there's venture capital available for other junior companies. Well, the phone's starting to ring, and I know that we'll have partners on some of the other projects that we've got very, very soon.
So let's go through any other slides that you'd like to show.
No, thanks, Jeb. I mean, I could show some of these, more technical ones. I could show.
Oh, how do investors get in contact with you?
Yeah, you can see the contact information here for Melanie Henderson. She can answer a lot of your questions, but if you have potential future shareholders have questions directly for me or technical questions, I'd be glad to answer them, and she can set up a meeting. But please contact Melanie at this email address or her phone number shown there.
Well, thanks, Greg, for being here with us today and for giving us an introduction into the Millrock Resources story. It can be traded as MRO on the TSX Venture. It can also be traded as MLRKF on the OTCQB. You can get a lot more information by going to millrockresources.com. You can call toll-free 877-217-8978, and Melanie Henderson is the contact person if you have any questions related to Millrock Resources, or if you want to speak to Greg and get more details about the company. Thank you, Greg, for being here with us today and for giving us an introduction.
My pleasure, Jeb. Look forward to speaking again sometime.